Hi everyone, welcome back to DGMZ, Divan-e-Ghalib Meri Zubani. To all our returning viewers, we are very happy you could join us again. And to the new viewers, we are delighted you discovered the podcast and decided to tune in for the first time. Now, if you were with me in the previous episode, you know that in the last episode we completed Ghazal 23 from Divan-e-Ghalib. What that means is that today we get to start a new Ghazal, Ghazal 24 from Divan-e-Ghalib. As always, I'm going to read the Ghazal first and then we will get into the keywords, meanings and impressions. For your awareness, this Ghazal in the Divan has only one couplet. So we are going to start it today and we are going to finish it today. So this is how it goes. Asad. असद हम वो जुनू-जौला गदाए-बे-सर-ओ-पा हैं। असद हम वो जुनू-जौला गदाए-बे-सर-ओ-पा हैं कि है सर-पंजा-ए-मिज़गान-ए-आहू पुश्त-खार अपना। So let's start with a quick approximate translation. First line, असद हम वो जुनू-जौला गदाए-बे-सर-ओ-पा हैं। Asad, we are that mad, crazy, headless and footless beggar. Second line, कि है सर-पंजा-ए-मिज़गान-ए-आहू पुश्त-खार अपना, that the combing from the deer's eyelashes serve as our back scratcher. If the Urdu share did not confound you, the English translation sure would have, right? Yeah. So even before we start wrapping our head around this couplet, let's quickly get the keywords out of the way. So let's start with the keywords first. Junu. Now Junu means a state of crazy, a state of madness, a state of frenzy. Also, it at its root has the word jinn, and by extension, Junu is someone possessed by a jinn, possessed by a spirit. So that is another usage of that word. अब अमीर ग़ज़ाल बश का ये शेर देखें, मेरे जुनू का नतीजा ज़रूर निकलेगा, मेरे जुनू का नतीजा ज़रूर निकलेगा, इसी सियाह समंदर से नूर निकलेगा. So the approximate translation is that one day this crazy, this frenzy of mine will bear results. It will bear fruit. And from this dark sea will emerge a light-filled gem, a light-filled diamond. मिर्ज़ा गालिब का शेर, बक रहा हूँ जुनू में क्या क्या कुछ, बक रहा हूँ जुनू में क्या क्या कुछ, कुछ ना समझे खुदा करे कोई. Beautiful couplet. Whenever we come to it as part of our impression, it will be a pleasure to get into it with you. But for now, the approximate translation is that in my crazy state of mind, I am uttering many mad, crazy things. All I can wish at this point in time is that no one is able to understand what lies beneath all these crazy, mad utterings of mine. जॉन ईलिया का शेर, मेरे अक्ल होश की सब हालतें, मेरे अक्ल होश की सब हालतें तुमने सांचे में जुनू के ढाल दी. The couplet is addressed to the beloved, right? So the lover is telling the beloved that all the states of my mind which had semblance of wisdom, which had semblance of logic and rationale, you, beloved, has poured all of them in a mold of crazy, in a mold of madness, in a mold of frenzy. That's the effect, impact that you've had on me. Moving on to Jaula. Now, Jala has two very interesting meanings. One meaning is where it is used to describe chains and shackles and fetters and bondage around someone, captivity of someone. And the other meaning is where Jala is this increased frantic pace, speed, galloping of horses, right? A lot of fast motion, intense fast motion. So it can be used both ways. अहमद फराज का ये शेर, जश्न मक्तल ही ना बरपा हुआ वरना हम भी, जश्न मक्तल ही ना बरपा हुआ वरना हम भी, पाबा जौला ही सही नाचते गाते जाते. Beautiful couplet. The approximate translation is unfortunately. Unfortunately, the celebration at the execution site never happened. The celebration at the execution site never happened. Otherwise, we, the people who were going to be slayed, would have rejoiced. Even though we had shackles and chains in our feet, we would have gone into that celebration dancing, rejoicing on our execution that is supposed to happen. Moving on to Gada. Now, Gada is used to describe a beggar. फैज़ अहमद फैज़ का ये शेर, बरस रही है हरी में हवस में दौलत हुस्न, बरस रही है हरी में हवस में दौलत हुस्न, गदाए इश्क के कासे में एक नज़र भी नहीं. So the approximate translation is that in the palace, in the abode, right, in the place of lust and desire, I can see beauty raining down its jalwa, so to speak, right, raining down its glory. And here, for the beggars of love, beauty is not even willing to send our way one glance. So just that contrast between love and lust, how beauty is eagerly raining her graces on places that are filled with desire and lust, but for the beggar of love, they cannot spare even a glance. अहमद नदीम कासमी का ये शेर, गदा गदी भी एक उसलूब फ़न है जब मैंने, गदा गदी भी एक उसलूब फ़न है जब मैंने उसी को मांग लिया उससे इल्तिजा करके. So the approximate translation is, begging for a beggar is an art. It's a talent. Not everyone has it. Look at me. I am one beggar who went and asked her from her. Right? I asked her to give me her. And that is what I call, state-of-art begging, where you ask someone to give themselves to you. Now, moving on to the big word complex, Sar-Panja-e-Mizhgaan-e-Aahuu. So let's break it down. Sar, as you know, it's a common word. Sar is head of something, head of something. Panja, again, it's a commonly used word. Panja is your palm. It is a claw. It is the appendage, right? Now, if you're talking about humans, it can be hands, but if you're talking about animals, all four are panjas, right? There's no differentiation between head and feet, so to speak. So, panja is this extended fist, open hand, palm with the 5 digits. Pan, right, means 5. Mizhgaan is eyelashes. Mizhgaan is eyelashes, and Aahuu is deer. A doe, a gazelle, right, from the family of a deer. So Sar-Panja-e-Mizhgaan-e-Aahuu, basically eyelashes of the deer, which are serving as a panja that goes through the head. And this is where the visualization comes in, right? The panja that goes through the head, the comb-like structure that goes through the head. And you add another layer of imagination on it, and now this becomes those gadgets one would use that was shaped like a hand with large fingers. Now, moving on to Pusht-Khaar. So let's break that also. Pusht is part of the body that is between the neck and the top of the legs. So basically your back, your torso, so to speak, but the back of it, the back portion of your torso. Khar is a thorn, thistle, something that is sharp, needle-like, right? It can scratch. So pusht khar, back and scratch, or thorn scratching it kind of becomes by extension, back scratcher, right? So again, a gadget that is used to scratch your back. With all those interesting words, including massage gadgets, out of the way, let's move on to the impression. Now, Ghalib, or shall we say Asad, because in this couplet, Ghalib chooses to use his takhallus Asad. So, he in this couplet has baffled many with the complex imagery. And as people explain the couplet, they in parallel keep emphasizing on how the couplet borders on absurdity, how the couplet has recklessly disjointed visuals joined together by Ghalib and crammed into these two lines. Some have called this couplet a tillism or a maze, something created to confuse and lose your way. And I'm giving you that background so that you are aware of the reputation this couplet comes with. This couplet, many have deemed it to be just nonsensical gibberish. Too many things thrown together in a pot, and the result is just absurd visuals that make no sense. So that's the reputation. Now, as DGMZ viewers, you know this is not the first time we have come across a Ghalib couplet that people discarded as gibberish or too nonsensical to make sense. Also, as DGMZ viewers, you know that at DGMZ, we do not believe in a universe where Ghalib talks gibberish and nonsense. We do not believe in it. What we believe is that most of the times when people call a Ghalib couplet nonsensical, it is because either they cannot understand it or they cannot decipher it, and if they do, they still cannot grasp the essence of it. And that is when they go ahead and say that the couplet is gibberish. Will we today at DGMZ be able to understand this couplet? Probably yes, probably no. But one thing is for sure, we are going to try very hard. So, let's begin by giving Ghalib due credit. For his Ghazal 24, this alone is the couplet he chose to be included in the Divan and hence published. The rest 3 verses of this Ghazal were never included in the Divan and remained unpublished. Ghalib is too great, too accomplished a shayer to pick a nonsensical, absurd couplet out of his Ghazal for his Divan. So we get into this impression believing Ghalib knew this was his pièce de résistance of the Ghazal, and hence he included it in the Divan. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the first line. Asad hum wo Junuun-Jaulaan Gadaa-e-Be-Sar-o-Paa hain. Let's start with Asad. As I mentioned, Asad is another takhallus, another pen name Ghalib uses in addition to Ghalib. Asad translates to lion, leonine, tiger, right? That is the word Asad and its meaning. DGMZ has a whole episode, a whole episode dedicated to Asad Takhallus of Mirza Ghalib in our eclectic playlist in case you want to explore Asad in greater detail. Moving on to Junoon. Junoon means madness, craziness, and a frenzy. A constant state of agitation, restlessness, turbulence, with no respite, no rest, no peace. A lover who is a wanderer, a lover who is in a perpetual state of frenzy, a lover who knows no rest at all, a lover who is hopeless and knows he will never find it but still searches, a lover who does not know stillness. All he knows is a continuous state of agitation. That, my friends, right there is the one and only Layla-e-Majnun, Layla's Majnun. Ghalib, without making any direct reference to Majnun, introduces Majnun in this couplet as soon as he uses Junoon. No one in the world of lovers embodies Junoon as Majnun does. Majnun was an epithet bestowed upon Cas. Yes, Cas was his original name. The epithet was bestowed upon Cas because at the root of the word Majnun, like we said, lies Junoon, jinn, that symbolizes a state of madness, a state of being possessed by something or someone. अहमद फराज का आप ये शेर देखें, वो कैस अब जिसे मजनू पुकारते हैं फराज, वो कैस अब जिसे मजनू पुकारते हैं फराज, तेरी तरह कोई दीवाना घर से निकला था. Beautiful couplet, right? The approximate translation is that Cas, who now is known as Majnun, Faraz, and the poet is addressing himself when he says Faraz, he was also a common person that had walked out of his house one day like everybody else does, like you do, Faraz. But then the path he took was very different. आसी उल्दानी का ये शेर, मुरत्तब कर गया एक इश्क का कानून दुनिया में, मुरत्तब कर गया एक इश्क का कानून दुनिया में, वो दीवाने हैं वो दीवाने हैं जो मजनू को दीवाना बताते हैं. Beautiful couplet, right? The approximate translation is, he established a code of conduct. He established a law of love. He established the basic guidelines for love and a lover. Those people are crazy themselves who choose to call Majnun crazy. Majnun was not crazy. In DGMZ's humble opinion, Majnun is the backdrop on which Ghalib paints this elaborate, visually complex sher. And we will see multiple parallels in the couplet confirming that assumption. If you are familiar with Majnun as a lover, the sher will promptly bring his picture to mind. If you are not familiar with Majnun as a lover, DGMZ has a whole mini-series dedicated to the immortal love story of Layla Majnun. You can access it via the dedicated playlist. Once you read that story, you will never look at love in the same way like you do at this point in time. That is a guarantee. Powerful story. Now, Asad hum wo Junoon, right? Ghalib claims the madness of a lover up front in the couplet. And it almost seems rest will follow as a consequence to this fact, as a consequence to the mad state of mind of the lover. Moving on to Jaulaan. Interesting word, like we told you, it can mean chains, shackles, but can also mean a fast pace, like that of a galloping horse. Now, we know that Ghalib is famous for choosing words that could work in multiple ways, that could give the same line multiple meanings. But here, Ghalib goes beyond that. He is using a word that can be used in two totally opposite meanings, right? One is immobility, like being in chains or shackles, and one is like this fast, unstoppable motion, like that of a galloping horse. We will try to explore both. The fact that Ghalib couples Jaula with Junoon, let's pick the fast paced, fast motion version first. In this case, Junuun-Jaulaan would mean crazy, frenzied, maddening gallop or pace. Unstoppable, unlimited, uncontrollable pace of the lover that cannot be stopped. The need for the lover to continuously keep moving towards the beloved will not wait for anything, will not allow anything to stop it. मिर्ज़ा गालिब का ही शेर, ना होगा यक बयाबा मंदगी से ज़ौक़ कम मेरा, ना होगा यक बयाबा मंदगी से ज़ौक़ कम मेरा, हबाबे मौजाए रफ्तार है नक्शे कदम मेरा. So Ghalib says a whole desert full of fatigue and tiredness and disappointment cannot deter my enthusiasm even a bit. A whole desert of hopelessness, helplessness, and disappointment will not dampen my desire, because the prints my feet leave on the sand are like the bubbles on the water. Right? That fast I move. That fleeting is my footprint. Now, let us look at the second version, where we assume that Jaula is fetters and chains and shackles, right? Capturing something, keeping something in captivity. Is Ghalib talking about the lover being in some kind of captivity? We don't think so. And see how masterfully Ghalib captures this paradox of crazy agitation and motion in captivity. उनकी पहली गज़ल का शेर, नक्श फरियादी का शेर है ये. बस की हूँ गालिब असीरी में भी आतिश ज़ेरे पा, बस की हूँ गालिब असीरी में भी आतिश ज़ेरे पा, मुआए आतिश दीदा है हल्का मेरी जंजीर का. The approximate translation is that even when I am in captivity, even when I am captured with something, the passion is so intense that it is like a fire under my feet. It makes the chains become as fragile as singed hair. You would know, right? Singed hair is like the most friable thing. You touch it and it will just crumble. That is what my passion, the fire of my passion, does to iron shackles and fetters. So yes, Jaula also fits in this couplet as chains, right? So the thing that is chaining the lover, which is the love for the beloved, is also the thing that lights a fire under his feet and keeps him in constant motion. Next up is Gada. And Ghalib has very nicely placed Gada almost in the middle of the first line. All the words before and all the words after Gada are used to capture additional complex attributes of Gada. Now, as we covered in the keywords, Gada is a beggar. But since we know how strong the theme of love and Sufism and mysticism exists in Ghalib's poetry, this in all probability is not the typical beggar, but a very specific kind. This is a mendicant. Now, both a beggar and a mendicant are poverty ridden, but the difference lies in the reason behind the poverty. For a beggar, the reason is an actual lack of resources like food, etc. But for a mendicant, it is a voluntary relinquish of all material resources in his pursuit of his faith, of his belief. The lover is a mendicant too. The lover gives up all other materialistic desires, all other materialistic pursuits, and laser focuses on one and only one goal, the beloved. Once again, here, there is a parallel to Majnun, the lover who gave up everything for Layla. And ये बेदम शाह वारसी का शेर, one of my favorites. उसको दुनिया और ना उकबा चाहिए, उसको दुनिया और ना उकबा चाहिए, कैस लैला का है, लैला चाहिए. Simple. Simple. The guideline is very simple. Right? The approximate translation, he doesn't need the world, he doesn't need the throne, he doesn't need the title, he doesn't need the materialist, he doesn't need anything. Majnu belongs to Layla and he wants Layla. Simple. So, that is the type of mendicant we are talking about in the first line. Moving on to the last word complex of the first line, Be-Sar-o-Paa. What that translates to is headless, footless. But so literally it translates to headless and footless, but metaphorically it describes something or someone who is absurd, helpless, baseless, groundless. In English language, we have a similar phrase. You must have heard of it, without head or tail. Right? Without head or tail. So, Be-Sar-o-Paa is usually used in Urdu poetry to describe a state of a person or a thing where it's stopped making any sense. It stopped making any logic, any rationale. It is an anomaly. No one can explain, no one can justify or rationalize, but it is happening. It is happening. अब लवर की जो स्टेट है उसके लिए बेसरोपा बहुत यूज़ किया जाता है उर्दू पोइट्री में. मीर अली औसत रश्क का ये शेर, सब मुझे बेसरोपा कहते हैं, सब मुझे बेसरोपा कहते हैं, ए मोहब्बत इसे क्या कहते हैं. The approximate translation is, everybody calls me someone without head or tail, headless, footless. Tell me, love, what is this state where everybody has started perceiving me so absurd, so nonsensical, so beyond logic and rationale? So, now let's take a step back and see what kind of visual has emerged so far in the first line. There is a beggar, a mendicant who is in a crazy, frenzied state of motion, a state of agitation where he almost seems to have lost his head, which would symbolize losing the power of deduction, coherent thinking, etc., and has also lost his feet, which would symbolize losing the power of stability, grounding, foundation. Such is the state of loss, such is the state of hopelessness, such is the state of agitation of the lover. And yes, in the first line, Ghalib is drawing multiple unsaid parallels between himself as a lover and Majnun. Now, let's get into the second line. Ki hai Sar-Panja-e-Mizhgaan-e-Aahuu Pusht-Khaar apna. Just like Gada that was placed in the middle of the first line, Ghalib places Aahuu in the middle of the second line. And then Ghalib goes on to use the words before and after Aahuu to capture additional attributes and characteristics of Aahuu, which is deer. So let's start with Sar-Panja. Sar is head, Panja is a hand, a palm with 5 fingers. The visualization is vivid yet elusive at the same time. That's Ghalib for you. So Sar-Panja by extension would be a gadget that's shaped like a palm with extended fingers that would run through the hair and on the head. Now, this is something one would use to massage one's head, an age old technique that was used to relax oneself in an effort to get rid of tiredness and stress. We are well aware we still have such gadgets available. Next is Mizhgaan-e-Aahuu, eyelashes of the deer. Now, at DGMZ, we did some research and were amazed to find that deer's eyelashes were so much more special than just being beautiful and gorgeous, and being placed around equally beautiful and gorgeous eyes of the deer. So, deers are supposed to have long eyelashes and eyebrows that protect their eyes from twigs while they walk through brush. Actually, in the dark, when walking through heavy brush, these guard hair or lashes warn of sticks that might injure the deer's eye. The vibrissae, feelers or whiskers they are called, around a deer's eyes look like giant eyelashes. A deer does have upper eyelashes but not lower eyelashes. However, the beautiful vibrissae extend 3 to 4 inches from above and below the eye. These help the deer feel its way around by warning it that something is near its face. Deers have vibrissae on the chin and by the nose as well. Vibrissae are embedded deep in the skin and are surrounded by sensitive touch neurons. In addition to warning the animal of an object's proximity, vibrissae also help the animal with identifying objects. So, such an interesting animal fact, if you may, about the deer's eyelashes. I'm sure Ghalib did not consider this when articulating the couplet, but it just amazes. It just amazes us when we see Ghalib's couplet standing the test of things that he probably did not ever consider to begin with. We have seen Ghalib's couplet stand the test of medical facts. We have seen Ghalib's couplet stand the test of animal fact like this one. We have seen Ghalib's couplet stand the fact of metaphysics at times. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. Anyway, knowing this animal fact about deer eyelashes somehow makes Ghalib's comparison of deer's eyelashes to a head massager or a comb or a back scratcher seem a little more plausible. Insha captures Ghalib's imagery in this couplet. वो जिसके नैना आहू हैं, वो जिसके नैना आहू हैं, जो खार भी है और खुशबू भी. So the approximate translation is that one whose eyes are like that of a deer, that one who is a thorn and a fragrance, something that will scratch you, but then something that will please you too with its fragrance. Again, the deer lover dynamic, right? The deer lover dynamic is incomplete without Majnun's reference, since he is the one who invented it. We will explore it more in a bit, but for now, इश्क औरंगाबादी का ये शेर. इश्क रोशन था वहां दीदाए आहू से चिराग. इश्क रोशन था वहां दीदाए आहू से चिराग, मैं जो यक रात गया कैस के कशाने में. So the approximate translation is that love was radiating light thanks to the lamps in the eyes of the deer. Love was radiating light, love was alit thanks to the lamps in the eyes of the deer that one night when I entered Gas's tent or his home, right? Now, the last word complex of the second line, Pusht-Khaar. Ghalib continues to compare the eyelashes of the deer to another gadget. This time it's a back scratcher. Pusht means back, and khar is thorns, thistle, by extension something scratchy, right? Something thorny. So Pusht-Khaar becomes back scratcher. So clearly this second line is all about the deer, just like the first line was all about the beggar or the mendicant. Ghalib, the beggar lover, compares himself to the deer in this couplet, right? And the parallelism in DGMZ's humble opinion is at least threefolded, if not more. And we are going to get into all these three parallels. Number one, first parallelism. Here we see a visual where the eyelashes of the deer are barely touching Ghalib. The most front-facing feature of the deer, which is its eyelashes, are barely touching the most back-ending feature of the lover, which is his back. The first line clearly calls out that the lover is in motion, a crazy, frenzied, unstoppable motion. The second line, in an unsaid way, denotes that the deer is also in motion, fast-paced motion. Now, for a fact, deer, gazelles, antelopes, they are all known as swift animals. Some gazelles can run at 100 kilometers per hour. The blackbuck antelope can sustain speeds of 80 kilometers per hour. The white-tailed deer can reach top speed between 35 and 40 miles per hour. So clearly these animals clock high speeds of sprinting and almost flying through air, since this is probably one of their strongest defense mechanism against predators. So as soon as Ghalib introduces Aahuu, a deer in the couplet, he has introduced speed. He has introduced one of the fastest land animals that exist. Ghalib here paints a visual where the lover in his frenzy and madness is outpacing even the deer. Humans are not supposed to clock those speeds. They are not. They are not. So Ghalib is painting a picture where he as a lover is outpacing even the deer. The deer is barely able to catch up but continues to race the lover and continues to fall short. Despite all its efforts and all its abilities, the deer cannot outpace the lover. The deer is not able to touch the lover, and when it does touch the lover, it's barely by its long eyelashes. That's all. And to the lover, this touch of eyelashes momentarily serve as a respite, as a moment of relaxation. In comes all that visualization of a head massager and a back scratcher. These are all things one uses to de-stress, to relieve stress, to relieve tiredness, to relax. And Ghalib beautifully brings that in. Now, of the three-folded parallelism, let's move to the second one. Deer is not just a fast animal. Deers have significant symbolism in mythology, religion, and mysticism. They have been considered as objects of worship, incarnation of deities, objects of heroic quests, magical disguise or enchantments, curses for princes and princesses in many folk and fairy tales, and a connection to the supernatural or the other world. In Buddhism, one of the Jataka tales says that Buddha was reincarnated into the form of a deer. The story originated in India around the 4th century BCE and highlights compassion, empathy, and karma. In European folklore, Saint Giles, a Catholic saint specially revered in south of France, is reported to have lived for many years as a hermit in the forest near Nimes, where in the greatest solitude he spent many years, his sole companion being a deer or hind, who in some stories sustained him on her milk. In art, Giles is often depicted together with that hind or deer. In Hinduism, in Hindu mythology, the Aitareya Upanishad tells us that the goddess Saraswati takes the form of a red deer called Rohit. Saraswati is the goddess of learning, so learned men use deer skin as clothing and mats to sit upon. The deer symbol also appears in the ancient Kurdish legends. Kurdish people believe that killing a deer brings bad luck, and they see the deer as a saint who belongs to God. The deer is also used as a national symbol. The Kurdistan regional government forbids hunting and killing deer. In Native American mythology, there is the tale of the deer woman, a legendary creature associated with love and fertility. And lastly, here is DGMZ's favorite symbolism of deer that fits well in this couplet. The symbolism rests in a lovely, insightful doha from Sant Kabir. Kasturi kundal base mrig dhunde ban mahi, aise ghat ram hai duniya jane nahi. The musk deer is mesmerized by the smell of musk around him all the time, and he tries to chase it and find its source. The smell never stops, and hence neither does the deer in his attempt to find its source. What a chase! You spend entire life chasing, searching something you know is all around you because you can feel it, you can taste it, you can smell it, but you cannot find it. That is a perplexing way to spend your life, always hopelessly and helplessly chasing something you will never find. This is such a similar state to that of a lover seeking his beloved. Finally, of the three-folded parallelism between the lover and the deer, the third one is embedded in Majnun and his famous companions, deer, gazelles, and stag. In Nizami's The Story of Layla Majnun, after Majnun's fallout with his friend Naufal, Majnun races into the desert's obscurity, leaving everything behind. In the desert, he encounters two gazelles, ensnared by a hunter. Majnun beseeches the hunter to set them free. The hunter agrees to do so in exchange of Majnun's horse. Majnun willingly gives his horse. The hunter frees both the gazelles. Later, Majnun recites this famous verse as he lovingly kisses the eyes of the gazelles. Dark as the night, like hers, your eyes. What I have lost, you can't return. They waken memories that burn, sad happiness and joyful sighs. As Majnun loses himself deeper into the desert, once again he encounters a hunter, who this time has captured a stag and is about to kill him. Once again, Majnun rescues the stag in exchange for whatever is left with Majnun in terms of belongings. Again, Majnun, after rescuing the stag, talks to him lovingly, like a father talks to a child. And this is what he says. Like myself, are you not also separated from your beloved? Quick-footed runner of steeps, dweller of the mountains, how vividly you remind me of her. Go, hurry, search for her, your mate. Rest in her shadow, there is your place. And if, in your wandering, you should pass Layla's tent, perhaps even encounter her, give her this message from me. I am yours, however distant you may be. Your sorrow when you grieve brings grief to me. There blows no wind, but wafts your scent to me. There sings no bird, but calls your name to me. Each memory that has left its trace with me lingers forever as if part of me. Tell her that, my friend. With these words, Majnun removed the noose from the legs of the stag and set it free. Now, both these lovely chapters are part of the DGMZ miniseries Layla Majnun, episode 7, in case you want to explore the story further. Nizami in his book captures beautifully how the rescued gazelles and stag go on to always stay close to Majnun and comfort him with their physical presence. Majnun would cushion his tired body against their soft, warm bodies when he rested, which was seldom. Ghalib in second line not only is drawing a parallel of him as a lover with Majnun, but he is also drawing a contrast where Ghalib as a lover surpasses Majnun. Ghalib as a lover has much more anxiety, much faster pace of running towards the beloved. And though Majnun took respite and rest in the companionship of the deer, Ghalib can barely indulge in such respite and rest and companionship. Ghalib's encounter with the deer is at best fleeting. For a moment, Ghalib does encounter the deer, but how? A fleeting caress of the deer's eyelashes on Ghalib's back. So, we have completed all the three parallelisms that we think Ghalib has drawn in this couplet. Let's step back and actually understand now, or at least try to understand now, why Ghalib had to go to such extreme lengths of visual complexity both for the beggar, mendicant, and the deer. In DGMZ's humble opinion, here are the elusive mudda anka hai, right? Kind of messages Ghalib needed to capture in this couplet and does capture in this couplet. Number 1, the helplessness and hopelessness of the lover, which paradoxically coexists with a never-ending agitation and commotion. Gadaa-e-Be-Sar-o-Paa. Number 2, draw an unsaid parallel of Ghalib as a lover with Majnun in terms of crazy, frenzied madness. Junuun-Jaulaan. Number 3, have the lover, Asad, outpace the fastest possible thing, Aahuu. And number 4, draw a contrast where Ghalib surpasses Majnun in speed, anxiety, lack of rest, lack of respite, to establish himself as a more worthy, more authentic lover than Majnun, making Majnun, symbolic of the deer, serve as his back scratcher and head massager. Sar-Panja-e-Mizhgaan-e-Aahuu Pusht-Khaar, right? Now, how do you achieve all of this in a two-line couplet, right? If that is the scope, and we might have missed so many things, right? This is our humble understanding, our personal impression. But even from that perspective, if this is all the information you want to capture in 2 lines, how do you do that? How do you do that? Well, you can do that by having the eyelashes of the deer serve as your head massager and back scrub. Jokes aside, combining intricate mystical Sufi concepts with household simple gadgets, that's Ghalib for you. That's Ghalib for you. He excelled in using the simple to explain the complex. He also excelled in using complex to explain the simple. Neither is easy to understand, but if you keep at it, the message starts filtering through, trickle by trickle, till soon you are swimming in the sea of emotion and understanding you initially believed did not exist. Now, if you have watched one of those previous episodes that are posted, you would have seen we had brought up a picture of an iceberg, right? And used it to explain our understanding of a Ghalib couplet. At DGMZ, we believe Ghalib's couplet is an iceberg. What you see on the top is the wordplay, which forms the tip of the iceberg. What you do not see and exists in the depths is the essence, the meaning of the couplet. At DGMZ, we always try to focus on the essence. But this couplet deserves great attention on the wordplay. The wordplay is mind-blowing. This is the wordplay that makes you actually get lost, actually lose track. So let's try to appreciate it a little before we end the episode. Look at the couplet in totality. The lion and the deer. Asad is lion, Aahuu is deer. Two of the fastest land animals, by the way, brought together cleverly in the couplet with the power of usage of takhallus. Ghalib अपना तखल्लुस इस तरह से शेर में वीव कर रहे हैं that वो लायन और डियर का कंट्रास्ट क्रिएट हो. गालिब का तखल्लुस यूज नहीं किया, असद तखल्लुस यूज किया इस शेर में. दिस इज द रीजन. तखल्लुस आपने अगर if you have read enough Urdu poetry, you know that not every time a shayer uses their takhallus, it weaves into the couplet seamlessly. Theoretically it should, practically it does not. Many times you are like, oh, okay, it's just a name. Look at this couplet. It's just mind-blowing the way he has used the takhallus to draw the contrast between the predator and the prey. Both fast-paced animals. Number 2, Be-Sar-o-Paa of the first line, headless, footless, no head, no foot, is complemented by Sar-Panja of the second line, head and foot. Foot as in claw. What is lacking in the first line is filled up or provided for in the second line. The first line talks about no head, no foot. The second line talks about head and foot. Jaula, like we discussed, somehow works into the couplet both as chains and shackles and as frenzied galloping of the horses. The motion and the captivity aspect of it both work well in the couplet, which is again amazing. Sar-Panja and Pusht-Khaar along with Mizhgaan-e-Aahuu, all three things symbolize gentleness, relaxation, softness, restfulness, and what a great, sharp, jarring, impactful contrast that gets created with the first lines Junuun-Jaulaan and Be-Sar-o-Paa. The first line is all about commotion, all about agitation, all about frenzy, madness, crazy. The second line is all about these soft, relaxing, restful things. And then, of course, beautifully done, the unsaid, uncalled out parallels to Majnun. They are so loud and clear. It's like you can hear the silent screaming, right? Majnun is not mentioned anywhere, but Majnun is everywhere in the couplet. He's everywhere in the couplet. When Ghalib uses Junoon, when Ghalib uses Jaulaan, when Ghalib uses Gada, when Ghalib uses Be-Sar-o-Paa, and when Ghalib uses Mizhgaan-e-Aahuu. Majnun, 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 Majnun. And while he's pulling Majnun's imagery into his couplet, by the time you're done with the couplet, he has managed to surpass Majnun. he has managed to establish he's a better lover than Majnun. He has managed to outpace Majnun. कमाल की बात है, कमाल की बात है. अब वर्ड प्ले की the list can go on, but somewhere one has to pause. Somewhere one has to pause and admit. And let me tell you, the video is not edited and we are at 1 hour 14 minutes. I don't know what the timing will be after edits, but this is a long video, right? So somewhere one has to pause and admit, Ghalib, you indeed are the fastest. You indeed cannot be surpassed. You indeed cannot be touched. We as readers are thankful to have been able to fleetingly, momentarily have the eyelashes of our understanding merely brush the back of your shairi. That fleeting understanding of your essence itself is life-changing. That itself will take a lifetime to savor and enjoy. And for that, we are ever grateful to you. So that takes care of असद हम वो जुनू-जौला गदा-ए-Be-Sar-o-Paa hain कि है Sar-Panja-e-Mizhgaan-e-Aahuu Pusht-Khaar apna. We tried our best. We tried our best. Let us know via your comments how did this episode sit with you? Did the essence come through? Did the impression come through? Do you have some different take on various aspects of this couplet? We would be more than happy to hear that, because this is, like I said, this is an ever evolving impression. We could have gone another half an hour, 45 minutes with it, right? So like I said, somewhere you have to draw a line in the sand and say, Ghalib, मान गए कि नहीं समझ सकते इसको पूरा, पर अब इतना समझ चुके हैं कि इसको एंजॉय कर पाएंगे, इसको रिलिश कर पाएंगे, इससे कुछ सीख पाएंगे, एंड काफ़ी है, ये काफ़ी है. Okay. Now, as always, for the new viewers, a very strong recommendation. Please check out the episode titled Introduction to DGMZ, because that will give you a good insight into the motivation and inspiration behind this podcast. Also, as I mentioned in today's episode, check out the Asad episode in the eclectic playlist. Check out the DGMZ Layla Majnun mini-series. After going through Nizami's Layla Majnun, which is what we do in that mini-series, there will be a whole new world open for you. That is a promise. Now, I'm going to end this episode, but before I do that, I'm sending a lot of love and light to all you dear viewers, and thanks for watching. Come on.